Hi, and welcome to Infinite Wisdom. And I am here this evening with a wonderful person who I met, through a series of events. And I want you all to give, please, a warm welcome to Scott Allan, who is a magnificent um, medium. And that is what we're going to be exploring this evening. So welcome, Scott. Great
Hello. Thanks
to
for
have
having
you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, um, I like to start things off with understanding, and I think everybody's going to love your story. So let's go back. Let's go to the Wayback Machine and hear how you became a medium. Was that something that happened when you were a child? Was it how did it happen for you?
It's funny. I think it was there, but I didn't recognize it. I didn't understand what it looked like or what it meant. I wasn't one of these kids that grew up seeing spirits in my bedroom and that kind of thing. But there were synchronicities. There were moments that in hindsight I look back and think, "Oh, that had to be it." I knew things, I saw things that just, were just sort of funny coincidences at the time, and I don't think anything's really a coincidence, but it wasn't until much later in my life where it reared its ugly head, and it was an ugly head at the time. So, I was a funeral director for 35 years. I owned 3 funeral homes in Massachusetts, and, that's really what what I did. I mean, that was my career, it was my passion. I went to, uh, funeral directing school in Boston out of college, and went on and just I mean, that was it. I was on the board of directors for the Mass Funeral Directors Association, all of that stuff.
Well, let me stop you right there
Yeah.
because how does one pick that as a career?
You know, um, well, I would give you the short answer. It's in my book, if you want to buy my book, but I'll tell you because I'm a nice guy. But the thing is I remember my grandparents owned a flower shop for decades in the south of Massachusetts in the New Bedford area, and they would I would go with them and deliver with my grandfather, and one of the places we would deliver to is one of the local funeral homes, and they were friends. So, they were at my parents' wedding, their father and my grandparents were close. I mean, it was just a nice group of friends. So, we would go in and we would bring the flowers into the room where the body was laid out. And I remember one day, being there, and I had to be probably around 10 years old, and when we walked in, typically, the lights were off. We just sort of put the flowers down and walked out. Today was different. That day, the lights were on and they were getting the man positioned for the calling hours that started, I don't know, that afternoon or that evening, whatever it was. And there were two brothers, and one of them was standing behind the person who was in the casket and was pulling them up onto the pillow. And the other one was, straightening the suit. But it was interesting because while they're doing that, they're having a phone conversation. They're having a conversation about what are the Patriots doing? How are the Red Sox doing? Or whatever it was. Um, what are the kids up to? Oh, it's so and so's birthday this week. Yeah, we're having a party for Tommy with it. Whatever it was. They were going through, and it was just normal conversation that the three adults were taking part in. And I remember being acutely aware that um, this man had a wife, potentially, children, grandchildren, whatever it was, and thinking, how are they just kind of like going on as if none of this exists? And here's this family coming in and they know they're never going to see him again. That was sort of a weird thing to be thinking about at 10 years old, right?
And
But
yes.
I had this feeling of empathy that I mean, in hindsight, that's what it was. I wasn't thinking that at the time, but I remember thinking, this is really sad.
Mm.
How can you just momentarily acknowledge this and then go about as if like nothing has changed? Because clearly something has changed for these people. Now, I know that was a 10-year-old brain, right? I went into the funeral business and I knew that you couldn't do that. You cannot sit there and grieve with every single person. You can have compassion, you can have empathy, sympathy, whatever it is, but you can't sit there and live like life is over, for every single family that comes in the door. You're not helping them and you're not helping yourself. So I get that. But it was a very strange feeling to have. And I remember when we left, I said to my grandfather, I said, I don't know how anybody can do that. And he said to me, yeah, it's pretty gruesome. I don't know how anybody can do that either.
Mm.
And I said, oh, that's not what I mean. I don't mean that. I wasn't even thinking of that. It was like the emotional part of it. Like, how can you do that? So I think at that moment, even though I didn't realize it at the time, I feel like that was the moment that the seed was planted. And
Mm.
it was kind of strange. Again, we're talking about a child's brain here, but I think I can do that better because I would care more than they care, you know? I don't think it clicked that day. I think, several years later, it was like, I think I can do that. Like, I really just want to help people, you know? The irony in the whole thing is that it was one great big training session for me, and I thought that was the career. I mean, I thought that was it. I did it for 35 plus years, and I thought that was it for the rest of my life, but it really was preparing me for something else. It was giving me the tools I need because now with what I do, it's exactly the same people flipped. So I
Mm.
used to help the living because of the dead, for the sake of the dead. Now I help the spirits for the sake of their loved ones, because of their loved ones, because they're really coming through to let the loved ones know that they're okay and to share messages of hope and whatever it is you want to call it. Um, but it's the same people. It's all the same people. So it didn't really kick in for me, I would say, until probably, well, I bought my first funeral home in 1995, and I was still there in 2015. I have 45, 50. Yeah. I had worked as an employee before that, but I'm just trying to do the math in my head. It was probably at least 10 years ago. So it's probably like 2015, somewhere in that ballpark where things started to happen. And I thought, oh, wait a minute, this isn't, like what's happening. That was the beginning of something's not right here.
That was the ugly head you mentioned.
Houston, we have a problem. It was a problem. It was
Before
but
we go on to that, because I really want to hear that. I know everybody does. Um, did you find that the funeral work was rewarding? Was kind of what you had thought it would be? Fulfilling for you and all of that?
I did, and I found it to be incredibly rewarding, and I loved caring for people and doing what I did. The whole embalming thing, I always say it's sort of like, you get used to that, but that's not really where your focus is. I mean, it is to a certain degree, but it's really on the people, right? And then you get to a certain point in your career where, well, someone else is going to do that. My brother came in and he started doing it. And sometimes we'd have other people do it that worked for us, but and now I was just the people. I was the front man. You know what I mean? So it really was about the people. But I will tell you, and this is a societal thing, I think. When I started in the business back in the early 80s, and it was the early 80s, it was very different. People's mindset was different, their values were different. And I noticed, and maybe it's just aging, I don't know, but I noticed that people would show up for calling hours and a wake or a funeral, and you didn't know if they were dressed for the funeral or dressed to change the oil in their car. So it became there was a less of a importance in putting
You
yourself
mean over time it got less important?
over time. It was less important in how I dress, how I react, and the whole adage like, oh, when you're dead, you're dead. Well, I mean, yeah, sure, if you want to believe that. I mean, I don't believe that. I believe that there's something beyond this, but does that mean that we have to not be reverent? Does that mean that we have to not treat the person? I remember one time, and this was just me. I did this, but I remember someone was going to be cremated. They were not going to have a funeral. They were not going to have a wake. And I said, why don't you bring in what you'd like them to wear? because, well, and they said to me, "What for? Who cares? I mean, when you're dead, you're dead." That was the response. When you're dead, you're dead. And I said, "Well, because it's your mother, and because she has to be viewed by the medical examiner and the crematory personnel, and it's just a matter of dignity." Well, we were over such and such funeral home and they didn't ask for that. I said, "But you're here, and I'm here to protect her." Now, why do I have to have this conversation with? I mean, I didn't say that to them, but why do I have to have this conversation with you? Why do I care more that your mother is covered up and decent when she goes to the crematory? Why is this even a discussion? Do you know what I mean? But
I
that
know.
never used to happen. It never used to happen, and I saw this change in people, and it really profoundly bothered me, and I got to a point where I remember thinking, probably about at least 10 years or more before I got out, that, I think I've had enough, but I can't retire. I'm too young to retire, and then what? Then what do I do? I had nothing left. You know what I mean? There was nothing else. I wasn't gonna go work for someone else. I mean, I didn't know what
Right.
I would do. But I felt like this is not what I came here for.
Right.
It's not how I want people to be treated. It's not how I care about people. And it's not a money thing. And it's not a whether you have it's just a sense of decency and the approach that we bring to this, to be reverent and to be sincere. And I found that that was lost on, not on everybody, but on a lot of people. It was lost. And so when I finally got the chance to move out, not move out, sell out and and move out of the area, I did. And it was interesting. It was interesting.
Do you know that film? It's a Japanese film about a, uh, style of funeral, uh, care it's so moving. I was just trying to look it up here because, I think you would love it, and it completely undid me. It's got some humor in it. I'm trying to just remember, what it is because I want everybody to know about it,
Mm.
and, uh, geez, I can't find it right now. Departures.
I haven't heard of it. I'm gonna write it.
Oh, god. And it seems a little quirky in places. You're like, where's this movie going? Just hang in there. Just hang in there. It is like a ballet of the
Really?
reverence you're talking about. And it's an ancient way of
Mhm.
taking care.
Yeah. And culturally, it's very different, right? So that's why I say it doesn't really matter what you do. It's the mindset more than anything,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
culturally, it's different from one group to another. It
it
just
is.
it just is. There is still
Feeling
there is
yeah,
still a part of me a little bit that I remember with great fondness what it used to be like when I had that mindset that everything it no longer I mean, we were no longer able to do that anymore. It had to be a business, and it had to be a business in a huge way. We ended up, having to pay for, someone wants to come in and play, um, "How Great Thou Art" or whatever, at the service. We had to pay royalties on that every time
oh,
someone come in. So we had to send in, to ASCAP and get a license to play music. And it was just one thing after another thing, and then they nickel and dime you like crazy. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. You just can't afford to serve people like you did before,
mm.
you know?
Well, let's talk about the turning point.
Yeah. Well, the turning point came, like I said, about maybe 5 or 10 years, before I actually left. And I built a new funeral home in 1998, and I had bought the land from, uh, it belonged to the Archdiocese of Worcester, Massachusetts, or the Diocese of Worcester, Massachusetts. And there was nothing there. There was a house there maybe 100 plus years before that had burned down, and it just was a wooded lot, really. But it had a beautiful granite frontage, along the walkway. So I bought that, and we built this new funeral home from the ground up. It was beautiful. And I remember maybe about 2.5 to 3 years after that, I was sitting in my office, which was on the second floor, and I noticed someone was downstairs and was walking up to, come see me. And it could have been one of the employees or whoever it was. So I'm like, hello, hello, hello. And getting annoyed. Nobody's answering me. So I look and there's nobody there. And I could hear them walking up the stairs. And I thought, oh, that's really weird. And that continued to happen. And then I noticed when I was downstairs, I would often hear them walking around upstairs. Now, why is this place haunted, right? Because it's never been haunted. I've been there for years. It was never haunted. And why is it haunted? And so I remember sitting with a family one day, and I was in my office downstairs where we would make arrangements. And I heard the front door open and someone walked in. Hello, hello. So I kind of said, give me a moment. I walk out and there's nobody there. And I walked out of the building. There was nobody in the parking lot, nobody on the street. There was nothing. So I said to them, I said, did you hear that? They said, yeah. And then we noticed there was a smell of like old person, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like old hair tonic or old, it wasn't really cologne. It was like a grooming product or something. I don't know. But I smelled it. And they didn't say anything about the smell, but they heard the door open and close, and there was nobody there. I mean, there's just nobody there. So things like that started to happen over and over and over and over. And, I thought, okay, so the funeral home's haunted. That's interesting. I didn't know why, but it was interesting. So when I sold it, I had a friend of mine who, now, very smart woman, worked for MIT in Cambridge, older than me. She's already retired. And she said to me, we're going to this historical society in the city of Revere, Massachusetts. It used to be a church rectory years ago. The church they tore down, they built a new church up the street. So they sold the rectory to the town. They made it an historical museum. And we're going there because they say it's haunted. So we thought we'd like check it out. I'm like, you're going ghost hunting? I mean, like this lady who worked at I mean, really, it was like, are you kidding me? I had no concept of this at all because, when you're a funeral director, you join the Lions Club. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't go ghost hunting. So I thought, what the heck? I'll go. I was more curious because I had experienced all these things at the funeral home. And I thought, well, that'll be interesting to see if there's anything like that, right? So we went. And it was really more of a social night. We ended up getting together for pizza or whatever. And then we went over there and it was nothing. It was like watching paint dry, except it was fun. It was people and, we had a nice time, but there was really nothing. The lights stayed on. Nobody, we're not sitting there in the dark. So she says, well, that's sometimes how it is. Sometimes there's nothing. They were in the back hallway at one time where the priests had their bedrooms, like way in the back. And one of the men said, do you know anybody's name? And he's using what's called a spirit box. Spirit box is basically a radio that scans the channels really quickly. And the theory is that, you can hear the voices coming through across the white noise, like, okay, whatever. So they're doing it. Do you know anybody's name here? There was nothing. It was really a bust. So we left and I had recorded it. And when I got home, I listened to it. And he said, do you know anybody's name here? And you can hear about 15 of them saying my name. Scott, 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 Scott. I thought, you have got to be kidding me. I actually have the recording. It's like insane. So I went and reached out to my friend, who was probably in bed at the moment. And I said, Julie, you got to check this out. And she says, oh, that's really strange. She says, I've heard them say my name like once. I've never heard that before. That is bizarre. She said, I don't know what to say. It's just different. So it just kind of let it go. And that was it. And then I went on a couple more and it was really like nothing. I really didn't get any answers as to why anything was happening, with me or whatever. So it was just the end of it. We were going on another one and I said, I'm going to because I didn't have equipment. I didn't have anything. I'm going to get one of those little spirit boxes. So I bought one. I got it wherever I got it. Came in the mail and I was home and I plugged in my batteries and I turned it on and the voice said, talk to Scott. At my house. My house is not haunted, by the way, not even remotely haunted. Talk to Scott. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm Scott. What's your name? This is David. So I had a name. Like, this is David. So I called her again. I said, check this out. So I played it for her. She's, oh, where was that? I said, that was at home. She's okay. Don't ever play in your house. It's like doing a Ouija board in your living room. Don't do that. Like, just, you don't want to invite that kind of stuff into your house. I was like, okay, point taken. I won't. But why does this thing know my name? Like, who is this? Right? Why do they know my name? So a week later, we were getting together, and a friend of mine texted me. It was a Friday night, and I was still home. And a friend of mine texted me and said, some guy just came. She's a hairdresser. She was in one of her doing a client at her salon or something. And she says, some guy just walked in here and asked for you. I said, really? And she says, yeah. She says, I just told him you know, obviously weren't here and I would reach out to you. So you can call him. She just I said, who was it? She said, he said his name was David. And I said, oh, I don't know a David. I mean, like, I don't know. I don't know. So she says, oh, that's weird. So I'm trying to like pick her brain. Was he this? Was this? She says, I don't know. I mean, like literally he came in for like 2 minutes, said, you know, is Scott here? And okay, tell him David stopped by, and he walked out. So she says, oh, wait a minute. I think I can send you. She says, I have access to the security footage, you know? So she sends it to me, and there he is. This guy comes in. He's bald as a cucumber. He certainly wasn't there for a haircut. He came in all dressed in black, like a black t-shirt, black pants, black jeans, or whatever it was. And asked for me and then turned around and left. I'd never seen him before. He never came back. He never called. He never reached out. To this day, I do not know who that man was.
Mm.
But from that moment on, it was David all the time. And of course, my friend who, you know, says, you know, isn't that the same name as the one that came through the box? And that worries me. I'm like, yeah, well, you know, it's not making me feel any better either, to be honest with you. I didn't know. But I was more concerned with who is this guy and why does he know me? And why does he know that he can come here and get to her and get to, you know what I mean? There was a whole like chain of things. Like, I don't know how this happens. So it was all the time. I started noticing it when I was in my car driving. If I, you know, sometimes, you know, like if you get a commercial, you might hit scan on the thing and hit the next station. And I heard Scott. I was at like a donut shop with my son, taking him to get a donut on a Sunday. And I'm like, let me get my recorder out. I'm Scott. What's your name? And this woman comes through and says, David's back. Plain as day, which by the way, if you and your guests have a few minutes, I do have it on my phone. I'd be happy to play some of these for you because I started to record literally everything because it was crazy. I'm in Vermont and people would say to me, I wonder if David's here. I don't know. I'm recording it on my phone. Hi, this is David. It comes through. He still will come through all the time. He came through so much that it was absolutely frightening. And I remember, and it was frightening not because I was afraid of him, because you start to question your own sanity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, the old adage, like you're hearing voices, that can't be good. So I started recording everything because I figured if I can hear it and you can hear it, then it's not mental illness, right?
Right.
It's just I'm possessed, and that's not a good thing either. So,
Yeah.
you know, seriously. So I went and I have all these recordings of him talking to me. Some are video, some are coming through. Sometimes it was just like I was with my cousin standing in a room by ourselves, and I hear, "Hi, Scott." And she says, "Did you just hear that?" I said, yeah, I didn't think you heard it." She heard it. It was in the room with us and there was nobody there. So I do shows like this. He'll come through. I'm getting the goosebumps now. He'll come through sometimes and leave a voice on the audio. So I ask people like listen to the audio when we're over. You know, sometimes you hear it. When I do my podcast, if I listen, sometimes I'll hear it.
Were you able to establish a communication back and forth and find out what it was he was after? Or
Well, that was part of the process. I think the straw that broke the camel's back for me. It was a day when I had my funeral homes. There was a home down the street from me that I was fascinated with. I mean, it was literally like 5 or 6 doors down, but there was this beautiful old Victorian home that had fallen into such a state of disrepair, and I thought it must be really, really nice inside. I'd love to see what I mean, not nice, like well maintained because it was falling apart, but I would love to be able to see what it looks like inside. Somebody bought it and they restored it. I mean, they had to have spent millions, and they were giving a tour of the place. So I said, I want to go. So I went back to town and I wanted to go to this tour. And I'm sitting in the what they call the ladies' parlor in the front of the Victorian home. Beautiful, completely impeccably restored. I'm sitting there and some woman, there was like 12 of us in the room, some woman decides she's gonna spray her like refresher cologne or perfume, like big thick French perfume. I thought, you gotta be kidding me. So now I'm getting a headache. I thought that wasn't, to myself, like I probably wouldn't have done that in this room. So I said to my friend Julie, the same one, she's sitting next to me. I said, I'm gonna go out and get some fresh air. She says, you all right? I said, yeah. I said, I'm just getting a headache. I said, that smell is like intense. She said, oh, that's funny. I don't smell anything. I said, how can you not smell something? It's so intense. Somebody else heard me and said, do you smell something? I said, I do. Oh, well, Ellen Pierce, who used to live in this house, is known to give off the scent of her perfume to people who can sense her. Nobody in the room could smell it. Nobody had refreshed their cologne. I was the only one, and it was so strong, it was sickening. And I'm thinking to myself, I can't sense her. Like I'm still dumb as a stump, right? At this point, I'm like, I don't get this thing. What is happening? How is this even possible? So, so they went into the kitchen to have like a little brunch thing, and I'm talking to her, and this thing crawls across the ceiling, shaped like a person, but kind of black and amoeba-ish, like kind of like morphing, comes across. She sees it too, comes across and disappears between the chandelier and the ceiling. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. People say, did you take a photo? I'm like, no, I'm standing there blinking my eyes, trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. Like, am I really seeing this? So I pulled out my phone at the time and I said, did we see you? And the voice came back, yes. And I'm like, this is not normal. Like, what is going on? That night I went home and I'm sitting there thinking, like, again, not afraid of ghosts, more afraid of like, what is happening to me? Why is this happening? Why is every place I go haunted? And somebody said to me, I don't think it's the place. I think it's you, which didn't help, by the way. It was not confident. I think it's you. And so that night, I'm at home and I'm on Facebook, just kind of doom scrolling, really. And
Mhm.
I see that these people I know are in Rhode Island on a paranormal investigation. And it's so funny because paranormal is not really a part of anything I do, but it was fascinating for a while. I'm watching them. They're in the woods and they have their little spirit box, whatever they have. And the voice comes through, where's Scott? And I go, oh, Scott's not here. Who's this? This is David. Now people are like texting me in the chat. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? I'm like, this is it. I'm done. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I really.
Oh my goodness.
So somewhere along the way, I met this medium who she doesn't even work as a medium, but she has gifts. She has ability. She just doesn't want to use them. She doesn't like it. She just does her own thing. And I knew that when she was developing her abilities, she had the same kind of situation, but she told people and they locked her up in a mental institution.
Ah,
Then they found out after, okay, she's not crazy. She's just a medium. And I wonder sometimes about these old hospitals and things like that where they
yes, yes.
So I'm like, I can't tell anybody, but I might be able to tell her. So I called her up or I texted her. I actually think it was a Facebook message, to be honest with you. I don't think I had her phone number. I had to like find out who she was. She was like a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing.
Yeah.
Found her. I said, I don't know if you know me. I have this ghost after me, which was, I mean, it kind of sound like an idiot, right? But she entertained me and she said, I think he thinks you can help him. And she's like trying to tune into it. If if he comes back, just tell him that you can't help him, but I can, and I'd be willing to help him. And I'm thinking, how am I supposed to tell him that? Like the whole thing just felt weird to me. Like it was just weird. I was a funeral director, grounded in like reality. This is not
Yeah.
reality to me. You feel
Yeah.
like you're losing your mind.
Yeah.
So the next day, I'm just sitting there, and I said, "Okay, I've got someone that's gonna help you. If you have to give me a sign. You have to let me know if you need help." Oh, God, I felt goosebumps like I've never felt them before from my head to my toes. It was the craziest thing. That's it. Picked up the phone, I gave her a call, and we were on the phone at least 4 hours that night, and she was testing when I say testing me, I don't mean like she didn't believe me. I mean, she was testing me to see if she could determine if this really was a gift thing or if this was like, I'm nuts. Because, you don't know, right? Um, she asked me to talk about or to tell her what I was feeling, thinking, seeing, knowing, that kind of thing. And as I'm telling her, she's somehow tuning in and validating that. She said he wants to be crossed over. I said, that's crazy. Like, what do you mean cross him over? Who can cross somebody over? Like, I don't get that. I mean, I seriously did not understand this, right? So now we're going to build a staircase. We're going to do this. It's all done like with imagination. I said, but that's my imagination. But your imagination can become the reality and all this. I'm like, "Oh, whatever. It's just a Looney Tune." That's what I thought. She's a Looney Tune. So I said, we're going to try it though. So we went, we did it. I'm telling her what I'm feeling and seeing, thinking I'm making it up, and she's validating it. Here's the weird thing, and this is something I've told a few people. I don't entirely understand it, but it gave me sort of the proof that I needed to understand that this was more than just imagination. So we build this staircase and it's beautiful and it's got mother of pearl and gold and whatever it is, it's shimmering. The top of the staircase is this light. It's the brightest light you've ever seen in your life, right? But I'm imagining this, right? She's talking about it, validating it. I'm like, quote unquote, imagining this. Telling him to cross. He takes a little while. He starts going up the stairs. I said he turned and waved. She said, yeah, he turned and waved. I saw that. Oh, okay, sure you did. So he goes up the top of the stairs and the light got brighter and brighter and brighter. And you could see figures coming to the light from the other side. We couldn't tell what they were, whether they were men, women, or whatever, because they were black. I mean, black because of the contrast between the light. You could not make out who they were. And as he turned and went through the light went out, like it like engulfed him. It just went boom, right? Now, this is after like 3 hours of being on the phone with her. I felt so. Have you ever had someone talk about a near death experience and they feel this unbelievable love that they've never experienced before? And you can't really explain it, but you just they don't want to come back. They want to sit in it. I feel like in that moment, I got close. It's like opening the oven door and feeling the heat or opening the freezer and feeling the cold. I didn't go through it. I didn't experience it, but I got so close to it. I felt as if now this is something that had terrorized me, right? Like, I mean, this was like nonstop for a couple of years. It was nonstop. I felt like I had lost a friend. So I'm sitting there, I'm tearing up. I'm actually tearing up. I can feel this loss
Ah,
for something or someone that I didn't even like or know or understand. Like it scared me. And I mentioned that to her, and she said, "That's because you get close to the light. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. You get close to the light, and it was there. That was the love, and then you're not close to it anymore. Like it shut off and it closed off and left you, and took that person with you. And it's not necessarily about him that you feel the loss for, but you're feeling the loss of connection to that world. And I can't explain it to you because it sounds completely crazy. It does,
you don't, you're, I get it. I would do the same thing,
I mean, but
right?
it is,
Yeah.
it's like, it's completely crazy. And that was it. And then she said to me, is there anybody else there? Yes. There's an old lady and a younger woman right here. So she says, "You want to cross? This is your time." I'm just like that. "You want to cross? This is your time." And the older lady grabbed the young woman's hand, went back up the staircase. The light opened up. They went through and it was gone. Just like
Oh,
that.
wow.
And she
Wow.
says, "And everybody else that's here, we're not doing it anymore tonight. Sorry." And I always say it's like if you've been in a nightclub at 2 in the morning and they turn the lights on and you realize you're going home alone and everybody has to leave. That's kind of what it reminds me of. And it was as if the lights went up and there were hundreds, if not thousands, thou and it's like they just took a couple of steps back and this darkness fell over and just they just went away, and that was it. And I tell you that, I get goosebumps, I can't understand it. It felt like I was imagining it until the feeling of it was so real that it couldn't be imagined. I mean, because it wasn't just, "Oh, I'm thinking of this in my head." I'm crying, I mean, it was like the weirdest thing I have ever experienced, the most profound, incredible experience I've ever had, and it was at a moment that I realized there was something to this. I didn't when she says, "You're a medium," um, I was like, "Well, technically, I'm a large. I haven't been a medium in years." But but seriously, though, it really was like, I didn't believe her. Like,
Mm.
she said, "Well, what do you think that was?" I said, "I don't know what that was. It was woo-woo, and I get the experience, but how can I be a medium?" I didn't have a near-death experience. I don't remember talking to dead people as a kid. I don't know how this happens. She says, "You don't have to." It's just not how I mean, that's what people think, but it's not actually how it happens sometimes. And so, it took me a bit longer. She convinced me to sit with people that I didn't know, but like friends of friends, like safe people, not like going out and doing reading because I definitely didn't think I could do that. But I sat with them and they would say, "Oh, that's incredible. How did you know that? You've got my brother." They start crying. They go, whatever it was that was coming through. And I'm thinking, this is weird. I feel like when she explained to me that the way spirit talks to you is that they show you things that you can understand through your own memory,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So it could be your an event you had or a friendship you had or somebody else that, something excuse me, something you saw somewhere, you know, and it triggers something in you. And the more you trust it, the more they'll give you and the more fine-tuned it will become because it was chaotic at that time. It was all visual and like all over the place, right? So I did that for a bit and I started to realize that maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's something more than just, and you don't have to dress up like a witch. You don't have to go to Salem. You can just kind of like, because that was the other thing. It's like they will laugh me out of
Mhm.
town. You know? And especially with what I did, you know what I mean? If I had ever said that to him, I mean, I probably could never get a job in that business again, knowing that I do what I do, but I don't care. 'Cause I'm never going back. But, you know, I think that it's just so amazing that that's kind of how it unfolded. And I started to believe more and more and more. And the more I trusted, the more nuanced and finite. Just last night I was sitting. I told you I was in Northampton, Massachusetts last night. I had an event at the Northampton Hotel, or the Hotel Northampton, I guess is what they call it. And I'm sitting there, and I had another medium with me, and she's doing whatever she's doing. And I look, and I've got a woman sitting at a table right in front of me, and I hear Spirit say, "She's a nurse. I'm here for her."
Mm.
So I get up and I said, "I'm right here at this table. You're a caregiver. I've got a patient coming through, someone you took care of." And I gave her whatever details came through. I don't remember. She says, "I'm a hospice nurse." And I gave her a few details and she says, "Oh my God." She says, "I remember this. I remember that." She says, "I don't know if I know exactly which, like if I can pinpoint because, 30 years of it." But she
Right.
said, "I do remember someone," because I told her there was a connection to Ireland or something. She said, "I remember that. I just can't remember who. But I'm so tickled silly that they came through to say thank you for sitting with me," or whatever it was that came through last night. But I knew I was with her, and they showed me she's a nurse, and to get that, like
Yeah.
she's a nurse and she's a hospice nurse, it's just like it's just crazy.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff I love, and I love doing it, but it was a scary journey to get there.
Oh, yes. So, I mean, and what's so, well, it's very hard to let go of our literal world understanding. It's very, very hard. And I've tried to explain it to people, that it's a it's just we're so ensconced, we're so trained, we're so conditioned to a certain way of being. And so when we start to have these experiences like you're explaining, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. And it's hard to walk away from the known. And I'm just really impressed by your story because you kept going. I know David didn't really give you much choice,
No, and
but
it was the
we're
point.
not
But
gonna leave
once,
you alone.
well, but once I accepted it,
Yeah.
and then I connected with a woman who was a shaman who helped me control it, like set up
Ah,
boundaries. You cannot bother me while I'm sleeping. You cannot bother me when I'm home. You cannot, now basically now I sit in front of the computer to do a reading or I'm on stage or whatever it is, and they'll show up. And that's the way it needs to be.
yeah.
Um, yeah. But it was, it was crazy. Once I accepted it though, that was it. It was like, we're not gonna get your attention one way or the other. That's basically, like your mother or I'm talking to you. How do I have to get your attention? It's have to, whatever, your cheek or whatever. I'm gonna get your attention. You will pay attention to me. And that's really what it was. And once I did, and it's a trust thing too.
Yeah.
I get that all the time from them. Like, if you don't trust me, we won't show up for you. It's
Mhm.
like you have to believe that this is real. So if I go into it thinking like, "Oh, I don't know if today's the day. I'm not feeling good. I didn't sleep last night. I don't know if they're really this is gonna be a lousy reading. I really wish I could postpone it." Guess what? That's exactly what happens. But if I go into it thinking like, "Yeah, I'm ready. Whatever you want, just take me. We'll go." I know it's gonna be good. It's amazing.
That's a really important point. For
Yeah.
any like, for even if you're not seeking to be a medium, and I really think, in bygone days, the person who could communicate with the ancestors was a revered person in the tribe, right? And you're serving a function that's important in our culture, in society, at all points, way back when in earlier cultures, that person served a really important role. And one of the key things, and I think you'll agree with me, is that uh, those who haven't crossed over because either they haven't prepared or they are still very attached to this reality,
Mhm.
uh, kind of clutter up the works. You know, this it they need to go all the way through so that the people who are living can have more clarity, more freedom, more, all of that. David was a perfect example of somebody who was cluttering up your space. And granted, he served a wonderful purpose because they were clearly trying to get your attention that this is your role. This is your sacred role. And, finally you took it. But I think it's one of the most beautiful things that mediums can do is to help clear the space, help them move along so the living can live, and of course we still think about them, we still miss them, and we can still communicate with them, but not in the same way. And I want to talk to you about that. So when there are those who have not crossed over, that's one level of what you can do and help with. Once they have crossed over, they can still communicate, right?
Yeah, and I still hear from David, interestingly enough. He still is
So
around. He's still.
tell me about those two, if you experience a difference between them, in terms of, I don't know, feeling, communication, whatever.
I think that okay, so let me say this. I make a clear uh delineation between our loved ones and souls who have crossed into the light and those who are stuck or refuse to leave, right? So those who are stuck and refuse to leave are what we call low vibration. They operate on a very low vibrational basis. So they're there. I'll notice them to a certain degree. When I like last night, Hotel Northampton, I walked in and I'm like, oof, it's like I'm wading in water. I'm not communicating with them because I don't operate down here, right?
Mm.
Mm. But when I'm communicating or doing a reading, I'm operating up here. That's
Mhm,
where our loved ones are. They're on an entirely different vibrational level. So it's
mhm.
access. We have access to it. Um, David, I don't know if he was ever really stuck here. I mean, I think that was the theory, but I think he was here for a purpose. I think he was communicating with me for a purpose. Because I don't generally communicate with like entities that are stuck. I don't, even if I'm aware of them, I don't have a conversation.
Yeah, maybe he was one of your guides
Well,
or
um,
somebody.
you know, yeah, there's a whole story behind that too. That's a whole other podcast. But
Okay.
I kind of know who David is. I found out after the fact. Years later, I did find out who David was, and it's fascinating. But he's still around when I want him. He's still around. If I ask him to show up, he'll show up. He'll say it. He'll say he's here. He'll give me his name, and it's interesting. But I think communicating with our loved ones, well, it's different for every person. So for me, I can communicate with your loved ones better than I can communicate with mine.
Mhm.
And the reason for that is how I receive my messages is it's something that will come to me, whether it's an image, like a movie or an image, or a thought, a memory, a feeling that I had not yet considered.
Mhm.
So it's as if I said to you right now, hamburger, right? You probably
Mhm.
were not just thinking of a hamburger, but now that I've said it, you can picture it. You can probably almost like smell what it would smell like, right? You can turn it around, you can flip it upside down. You know what it looks like. You are familiar with what that is. That's what it's like with me. So, oh my God, they just showed me last night. They just showed me Girl Scouts. Like she's wants to talk about Girl Scouts. Yeah, she was a Girl Scout leader for years. And so these are the things that they show me. But I wasn't just thinking of Girl Scouts. Now,
Right, right.
if my mother is here and she tells me, this is my birthday, this is where I was born, I grew up on a farm, I had one sister, all these things that might come through in a reading. Well, I already knew that. So how
Uh-huh.
is that? How do I know that what I'm getting is from my memory or because it's coming from them? So that's why you'll often hear a medium say, "Please don't tell me anything,"
Right.
because when you tell me something, it really will skew what I'm getting. And I think that, um, we need to be careful, like people who are sitting for a reading, we need to be careful too that we don't just completely shut ourselves off. Okay, I'm not gonna tell them anything, so I'm gonna block it because it's a three-way conversation. So you have to have an open heart and an open spirit and a closed mouth. Basically, that's how it works. Because if you sit there and you close yourself off completely, then I can't get to you. You know, I always say it's a three-point conversation. It's me, the medium, you, the sitter, and the spirit coming through. If one of those is missing, it doesn't work, right? If I'm not there, you need the interpreter. If the spirit's not there, it's just you and me. And if you're not there, well, they don't want to talk to me. It's why I don't talk to Elvis every night and have conversations because there's no point of contact. You know what I mean? There's no loved one not going to come here and just talk to me for my own benefit. Sure.
Right.
And if he did, I probably wouldn't believe it because I have no validation. Because mediumship without validation is just imagination. Really.
Right. Right.
No. So you really need those three participants in the session.
Mhm. So I also think that the mediumship, I wish that it was accepted by the hospice community, by all the death and dying communities as an integral part of the death and dying process. I do a lot of work with death and dying workshops and things like that. And what I found is that it takes a person through the death process and into the grieving period. But it's when you sit with a medium and you actually get to talk to your loved one that you can break the horrible spiral or circling and circling of suffering. There's it releases that, and it does it faster than anything. And I just wish that it was more. I think it's growing. I mean, certainly, there are more mediums out there that are high profile and all that. But it's such an important part of it.
I would agree. I think that so in terms of high profile, low profile, um, and this is not against anyone in any particular person who's high profile, but I mean that itself does not dictate whether someone is authentic or good.
Right.
You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
means they got a TV deal.
Like this
But
more, look, 20 years ago, people didn't even talk about it.
you're right. You're right.
Mm.
There is a group called the Forever Family Foundation, and they work with grieving families. Most of them are parents that have lost children, but they are not mediums. What they are is so the person who founded it, he um he he lost a child. He and his wife lost a child, and they were looking for a medium to help them connect and just make sure he was okay.
Mhm.
And what ended up happening was he met this medium, and then they ended up forming this Forever Family Foundation. Now they've got mediums, but they do a rigorous testing to make sure they are legitimate. And I think that's the problem you run into is there are people who are not legitimate and or they're
Yeah.
not good enough. And I say good enough, I mean,
Yeah.
because I think you can have some psychic ability, but it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be, well, it's like I can teach you to play Three Blind Mice on the piano, but will you be Chopin? You know what I mean? There's
Right.
different levels of everything. So they test them. I've not gone through it. To me, I'm not even sure I want to subject my. It's rigorous and it's. I don't know. I don't think I'm a good tester, so I don't know I mean, I might be fine, but I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know that it's worth it for me to go through that experience because I help enough people that I feel fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 No.
But if they want to, I mean, you can go to a company like that, an organization's not a company, an organization like that that really vets their mediums and you're getting legitimate. But even with someone who's 100% legitimate, it is not 100% guaranteed results every time because there's so many different factors. And
Right.
they, meaning our loved ones, have um, the ability to decide whether to come in or not. They may not come in that day. If
Mhm.
you've had an argument with your spouse, then potentially that's going to block you.
Mhm.
You are in grief. It's like driving the car in the fog. You know, the road's still there, but you may not see it. I feel like it's a lot of that kind of those pieces. So that's why I don't, I think the testing is probably okay, but I just don't, I wouldn't want people to think it's necessarily going to be 100% of the time.
But I'm very happy to hear that there is a foundation where they honor the medium
They
and
do.
and include it
Yeah.
in the process. That's really good to know. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. Well, Scott, would you like to take some questions
Sure.
from
I'd be
our
happy to.
audience? If anybody would like to ask a question, please put your yellow hand up. Hopefully you know how to do that. And we'll see what Scott has to say. As you're figuring out how to do that, I'll say that,
Yeah.
um, are there some characters that have come through that have been sort of, you know, unforgettable moments that surprised you or tickled you or anything like that?
I don't know. I feel like there are moments I tend to forget a lot of my readings, what I mean? I tend to forget that stuff. I'll tell you about one just recently, and it wasn't funny or humorous, but it was heartfelt, and I remember, I always tell people, "Pay attention to everything. Pay
Mhm.
attention to what I'm doing with my hands, my face, whatever," and I remember sitting like this, going like this, and she says, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "I don't know. I don't know." Um, she's my mother used to do that all the time with her beads. When she had her pearls, she would always, so things like that will happen. I had a reading with someone recently, and for some reason, she was having like, what do you call it? A lot of signs from him, like around the house. And Sometimes I don't know what I'm gonna say until it's literally coming out of my mouth. It's like one of those things where it's I can't use my brain, like, it literally just flows out.
Right, right.
And I said to her, "You need to know he's not stuck. That's the important thing. Like, he is giving you signs because he knows you need him, but I don't want you sitting here thinking like he's a ghost. He's not stuck. He's not in your house." She said, "Why did you say that?" I said, "I don't know why I said it. Like, I mean, I really don't know why I said it." She says, "Do you know," she says, "he's passed, like, almost 3 years, and when he was dying, I said, 'You can't leave me because I really I don't know what I'll do. I need you here.'" And then she's getting signs and thinking, "Oh my god, I hope I didn't stop him from
Oh,
transitioning to the other side." And she said, "This has bothered me for a long time, thinking he was stuck here and not crossed, and now you said that." And it's like I didn't say it because I just said it because that's what came out of my mouth, but I feel like that's the stuff that happens, and you get that healing, but it's from them, it's not from me.
right.
Somebody had mentioned wanting to hear a couple of things. So while you're talking, you can ask me another question. I'm gonna look I got them on my phone here,
You
so
look for David recording.
yeah, I'm
Um,
gonna look for it right now. Yep.
I'll tell you that, I had the same experience with my mother after she died. I was living in her house trying to empty it, and I heard her open the front door and walk around with her little heels, as I was in the basement doing the laundry, and then I'd be up in the 2nd floor, and I'd hear hammering,
Mhm.
in the garage, and the wood I was hearing this hammering, and I leaned against the window to look down to see if
Yeah.
somebody was down there, and I could feel the vibration in my cheekbone of the hammer, but
Oh gosh.
nobody's there. And, yeah, so, cabinet doors being open, things turning on, all that kinda stuff. And, so she hung out, and because I'm a dowser, I just started talking to her, and my kids
Mm.
were little, they were 6 and 8, and so we would have at bedtime, we'd have a chat with my mom, and it was so sweet to know that they could see that she was talking back to them and answering their questions. Do you have gardens over there? Those kinds of things. And she would answer, and it was very sweet. But after a few months, it was like, okay, it's time to go. So we did a prayer and off she
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Good work. I found a bunch of things here I'll share with you. So let me turn this on so you can hear. So the first one you're going to hear is actually that night that we were at the historical museum, and you'll hear you know anybody's name here. Listen closely. You'll start to hear them say Scott, 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 Scott.
Wow. 15.
15. I don't even know what that was. Yeah, I think I pushed it past the point where he was um, you know. And then there was this. Would it be possible to spell? I'm Scott. I'm Scott. What is your name? I'm Scott. David. So that was David. Um, and then the one at the donut shop that I told you about, we were in the drive-through, and it said, I heard Scott, and I said, I'm Scott. No, I actually said I pulled out the recorder, and you'll hear a little echo in some of these because when I clean them up, they sound. You can just hear them a little bit better with the echo. But this is the one at the donut shop. Okay.
Hey, it's Bethy.
David's back. I mean,
Unbelievable.
it's crazy. And it's like dozens of these over and over and over and over. Now, what is this one? There's another one here. I don't know what this is. Let's see what this. Oh, David. Yeah. Can you give us a?
David.
Oh, let me play it again for you. Hang on.
Can you give us a name?
David. Yeah.
Couldn't hear it.
You couldn't hear it? Yeah. David at the end. Yeah. So it was just, this stuff over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. just over and over and over. So
Amazing. Amazing. Well,
yeah,
he certainly served a good purpose there.
he did. He did. Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was
Now
good.
you're helping lots and lots of people. And um, let's see if there are any other questions before we
Sure. Yep.
anybody have some questions of Scott? Come on, y'all. I know you must. No? Okay.
All right.
Um, so tell us, first of all, what I before we started recording, I asked Scott how quickly can somebody get an appointment? Because, when you have to see a medium, you don't want to have to wait months and months and months, which has been my experience in the past. And it's just really hard when you need that confirmation or validation from your loved one that everything's okay. And especially, and you gave an example of this with the lady and her son, if there are lingering feelings of guilt or shame or even resentment, um, any of those things that can get cleaned up, cleared up, are so freeing for us as we go through our lives. Um, these kinds of things, are kind of crucial. So the beautiful thing is that Scott said he tries to keep his schedule available for people. So I think you said it's like in a week or so,
October 9th, I think I've opened up a bunch more just because I was booked out a few months and I said, this is just too much. So I tried to clear some things and put more spaces in, but you know, we'll see how it goes.
All right. So
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you like to do a little reading or do you do that?
I don't usually do them on the air, and I'll tell you why. One, because well, right now I'm not in the zone. I kind of have to get myself in the zone for that, and right now I'm in the zone. I don't even like doing Zoom. Like some people will do them by gallery, and I tell you what the problem with that is I feel like we're sometimes getting people in and out of a call. It's like people jump in, they jump out, and then you get people that come through, and it could be for someone in the next room, and you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's sort of a little bit, and I'm not really in the zone, right now. So I generally,
I totally understand that. I
yeah.
just thought I'd ask if you.
No, that's okay. No problem. No
Well,
problem.
Scott, tell us how people can get in touch with you.
So my website is mediumscottallan.com. That's ALLAN. Everything about me is there. So you can find out about my book. This one here, it's called In the Presence of Light, A Funeral Director's Journey from Mourning to Mediumship. And it's mourning, Mourning. And that's everywhere books are sold, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Balboa Press, all of those places. So you can get that. And you can go right through Amazon or whatever, but you can also get the link from my website. Find out about my podcast, The Enlightened Life, which you are on, by the way. I don't think your episode's come out yet, though. Has it? Or has it come out already? I don't even remember.
I haven't heard of it. I don't know.
I don't know. I have to look and see. But she's on it, so come and listen to Hope. I just can't tell you if it's come out yet or not. I finish them and then they get edited, and then I don't know where they are after that. They're either out or they're in the process of being pushed out. So, um, and then we have, you can book a reading right there online. So my full availability is there. You can go on. I do readings both in person and by Zoom, and Zoom really works just as well as in person. You can set that up. And then I have my live events, which I am literally all over the place. So I don't know where a lot of the listeners are from. I have quite a few
All over.
all over. I have people, I mean, I have shows coming up in New England, Massachusetts, Vermont, that kind of thing. But I'm also going to be in Colorado Springs in November. I'm in Rhode Island, Connecticut, South Carolina, and Florida in January. I'm sorry, and Savannah, Georgia in January. And then I'm back in Florida in March. And I just got a bunch of stuff booked all over the place. So that's all on my website as well. Some of them are not on because we are changing our box office over. So Monday during the day, they'll all be live, but Sunday night, we're shutting the box office down. And then there'll be, all the new events will be listed with the new box office on Monday. So, but there's a lot of good stuff coming up.
So maybe just wait till Monday to
Yeah, if you want to check out the events and see what's, where I'm going to be, then yeah, I would say if you want the updated list, wait until Monday.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, when I was on Scott's podcast, I was just so captivated by him. I said, "Yeah, I'm about to interview you and introduce you to my folks because they're going to absolutely love you."
Thank you.
And when I find somebody who is the real deal, uh, I I want to make sure I share it. And because this is a sacred role, I see it as a sacred role that you're playing. And for me, mediumship is here and there. I channel other things, but every now and then. And by the way, I'll tell you this kind of funny thing. Um, I was doing I once a month I have a channeling salon, and the usual folks, the high vibey folks come through and revolving door kind of thing. I never know who's coming through. And one night, I guess it was in the summer, um, I at the very end of the call, I was very surprised because um what's his name from the Beach Boys? What's his name? Um
Ryan Wilson?
yeah,
Yeah.
Brian Wilson came in.
Really?
And I'm like, I'm already in the zone. I can't really stop it. And
Yeah.
he says, it's Brian Wilson. And I went, what? He had just died the week before. And he talked about, he actually made a joke. He had, the language of a California guy and, and he didn't stay very long, but somebody asked him a question. Well, how have you visited your family and friends? Have you, yeah, he goes, yeah, yeah, I get around. No, full.
How did you hear him? What were you using to hear his voice?
He comes through my head. I
Oh,
mean,
through your head. It comes through you,
yeah,
like a trance type thing.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, yep.
But I'll tell you what, he messed me up because I was whacked out after that for like a week.
Really?
And I had to get a little help to get back. So sometimes that can happen. I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but it's happened to me one other time, not from channeling, from another event, but I know what it is when things go kerflooey.
Are you aware of it when it comes through? I mean, are you aware at the
No,
no, so you're
I'm
out
not
of every
aware that
full
he's
trance.
whacking me out until it's over, and then I'm really dizzy for,
Yeah.
then I feel nauseous
Yeah.
for.
I don't do trance, so I feel like that's a whole different ball of wax.
Well, I'm aware. I'm over to the side. And
Yes.
and then, so I know what you mean by the words, they just start coming and you can't
Right.
catch them, they're so fast coming
They're
out.
so fast. That's right.
Um, so and like you, I can recall what just happened when we have a chat about it afterwards. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, that now, but it's I'm in observant mode as it's happening.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that that took me by surprise for sure. He said he just saw an opening and he went for it.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah.
I know.
I don't know. I always joke, I don't talk to Elvis, I don't talk to Michael Jackson, I don't have any of that luck. You just.
He just dropped in. I feel like he stumbled and fell down a well. It came in.
That rabbit hole. Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I love talking to you, Scott, and I'm so honored to know you and be able to share you with everybody. And I know there will be a lot of people who will watch this. For all of you who are out there, if you enjoyed this, help me out. This is my new podcast. And so just do a little like down there and share it if you want. And that'll help both Scott and me. And so when this will come out, if I don't have it out by Sunday, it'll be next week. All right. So thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
I've enjoyed
Thanks
it.
for being here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for coming. I'm going to stop the recording.
All right.